What's going on, everybody? I'm Tom.
I'm Pat.
And I'm Zach.
We're best friends, and you're listening to the Reminiscent Podcast. They say you can't choose your family. Well, you also can't choose which era of music you grew up in. This is a weekly show where we discuss our favorite bands from adolescence and how they continue to shape our lives today. Each week, we'll head back to the early 2000s and take a closer look at the cards we were dealt.
We have to take a break from our regularly scheduled programming here at Reminiscent this week. Yes, for those of you waiting on the three-part series analyzing Adam Schleslinger's role in the film That Thing You Do, you'll have to wait. If you came here for an analysis about whether we could have predicted that the Netflix adaptation of Umbrella Academy from the mind of Gerard Way was just going to be okay based solely on the lyrics to the My Chemical Romance song Teenagers, then you, unfortunately, will also have to wait. And if you came here for more Taylor Swift talk, then perhaps we should just take the hint already because certain metrics have us printed as one of the top Swift pods on the market, and that is legitimately true. But no, we are going to take a break from all that to talk about something else today. That's actually an excerpt from an article we're going to put out tomorrow, which is going to be a review of Human Animal? No, that's Ryan's band. Simple Creatures. The Mark Hoppus, Alex, awesome last name that starts with a G.
Gaskarth.
From All Time. Yes, they put something out. We thought, based on a Mark Hoppus tweet that was recently sent, that we'd be doing an emergency pod, but it came out like 2 weeks ago, and they've been playing shows ever since. Anyway, we wrote up a quick review, and we're going to talk about that today. After a little bit of housekeeping, I am Pat. With me is my co-host, Tom.
Is that all I am to you, Pat?
Well, I was wondering how to phrase it. So when I got my first job out of college, there was a picture of my boss's wife on the counter. I was like, hey, is that your buddy? It's like, that's my wife, if that's what you're asking. So never good with titles. Tom and I have been best friends with our pal Zach for a while now. Anyway, Zach's not here. He has computer troubles, but we're going to move on along with the review nonetheless. We read a little bit of the article we're going to put out for the sake of what, I guess, to show an over-the-top, but almost actually honestly realistic interpretation of what, if you're just joining the show, to expect, topic-wise. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
But there are two clauses. There's a Taylor Swift clause and a Blink-182 clause in terms of if new things happen to anyone in those groups, then we usually do a review or a breaking news pod of some sort. And this falls under the Blink-182 family tree of side projects, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I wanted to start off with a little bit of housekeeping. You wanted me to join a book club. Yes,
a very specific book club.
Which I thought was official to the fan page, but it is just 4 dudes on Reddit, right? I was like, oh, yeah, I would love to join that, but except that it's like the least. I was like, oh, it's just 4 adult men that want to read The Great Gatsby, which may or may not be tied to Taylor Swift's interests whatsoever.
So it is a Taylor Swift book club it's a budding spinoff from the Taylor Swift subreddit, which I just recently found out they have a Discord server, and I have been losing my mind there because there are hundreds of people who love Taylor Swift as much as I do, so that's been great. But yes, I joined a book club. I convinced Pat, and it's The Great Gatsby.
You convinced me. You were like, "Hey, the Taylor Swift book club's doing this," and so I am 4/5 through the audiobook. I'm like texting Tom all day. He's like, "I haven't gotten there." I'm like, "Well, who's gonna know?" He's like, "What? Is there a meeting?" It's like, "No, I don't know. There's 4 guys. It's not." I'm like doing a book report in my head, getting ready for like themes that would make sense in 2019 that we're actually discussing in the book in terms of a warming world and race topics and things of that nature. And Tom's like, no, you're good, mate. You don't have to go that hard. And so I don't feel cheated or bamboozled necessarily, but I definitely should have asked a few more questions at the start. That's for sure. But how did they even get to the curriculum for the book club?
So it was just like the song Blank Space, the music video apparently was kind of inspired by themes in Great Gatsby. So that's kind of where the first book came from. And each month it'll be a different book from like a different, inspiration in her songs, music videos, whatever. And I haven't read The Great Gatsby, but I actually had a friend, Portia, who I talked about on the Head Automatica episode, which was that last week?
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So, we
Well, we'll talk about last week's episode.
We'll talk about last week's episode. So my friend Portia we were hanging out quite a bit, and every night she would drink a little bit too much and ask me over and over, have you seen The Great Gatsby, as if it wasn't previously a book, and then would kind of drunkenly tell me all about it. And then like 10 minutes later be like, have you seen The Great Gatsby? So what was her take? What was her hot take? God, I don't remember. It was probably pretty incoherent.
So it wasn't a steaming hot take?
No, it was a stumbling, slurred take.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool take. Freezing cold. Cool. Some might say.
Right. So anyway, I was just excited to read Great Gatsby, and I don't read much these days. So I do the audiobooks, but I'm finding that now that I'm editing podcasts like 12 hours a day, it's really hard to want to just sit down and listen to something in my free time.
So you should go to the library and get the book and just actually read it. We do song recommendations at the end of every episode if you're just joining us. And it's never a song. It's always just get a library card. We'll get that out of the way now.
I updated my library card, which is how I'm listening to the audiobook for free.
On what app, Tom?
They do have a free ebook, but I'm just struggling, man. I can't focus.
Well, I'll save you the time. It's...
No spoilers. No spoilers.
I will say the fact that they mentioned global warming kind of in passing, I was like, you guys have been talking about this same shit at parties for 70 years, and we're just now having to air out the dirty laundry. Like, what the why did we wait for the post 9/11 generation after just, like, you want to just try to solve everything? Like, you guys have been talking about this for this long? You fucking assholes? Jeez Louise.
Anyway, moving on. You saw Kelly Clarkson a couple weeks ago.
I did. It was, not awesome? To steal a phrase, barrel full of bops. It was fun. Got a little bit of ribbing at work just from the classic, like, nuclear family standpoint that, like, small talk kind of abides by. Like, the wife dragging you to Kelly. Yeah, dude, she begged, and she knew that the tickets were up for grabs at work for sure. It was like, I know you have them, so don't go at... Anyway, I totally asked for him on my own. I was like, hey, and Jesse thought it would be fun, my wife. And she was okay with showing up a little late, and we got there for the second to last, or whoever opened was right before Kelly Clarkson. And then you know more songs than you think you're going to. She kept it. She had a horn section. It was a good production. It wasn't super pop starry, and she can wail anyhow. You know, it's not like a weak voiced pop star with like set heavy costume change concert. So it was just good music. She had her opening acts join her for Miss Independent, and then closed it out with Since You've Been Gone. And I had a great time, to be quite honest. It rocked the U.S. Bank Arena here in Cincinnati. But credit where credit's due, I guess. They filled the place, and she showed out. She was pimping like this new talk show she's going to do. But best free concert I've ever gone to, if I do say so myself.
Nice.
Well, nice. I don't know. It might be the only free concert I've ever gone to. But.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, like, does my ex-girlfriend's mom paying for me count?
Right. I got to think back to all the 8 Great Tuesdays, too, in Erie. They had a few.
Right.
Yeah, I take it all back, but it was all right. It was a nice way to spend a Saturday. And we should honestly do a Kelly Clarkson episode if we're going there. I mean, we did Miley Cyrus's party in the USA, so we haven't, and we still have the lingering fabled Baha Men episode that we haven't not yet technically recorded, but we're venturing away from some of the alt rock, punk pop. Excuse my marble mouth. So I would love to do a Kelly Clarkson episode, or just an American Idol season 1 episode, because Justin Guarini, and I've mentioned this on the show before, but the fact that he's a little sweet in the Dr. Pepper commercials is maybe the best thing in pop culture right now. He's the sweet one. I couldn't love anything more. He's the size of the can, and somehow has the strength to hold the can in the commercial. I don't know. Just the physics of the commercial could be an entirely different pod. But so before we delve into the Simple Creatures EP, which was all right. Well, I guess we recently talked about Blink's collaboration with Steve Aoki, which was not great. Right. But this is a little better than that. But between those, we decided we have a running bit on the show called Oh Canada. And we decided to do an all Oh Canada episode, kind of like the Johnny Karate episode of Parks and Rec.
No,
And,
you railroaded me into doing it, is what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Mostly because name one other idea we had for the week. Like at the time, I was like, anyway. So it would have involved a full hour of us attempting to do Australian and British accents. And I think we lasted like 17 minutes. I was wondering, now that I think our number one main fan, Matt, was at least humored with an OU in that word by the effort. What do you think? How are you feeling now that we're a week removed?
Matt is not a fan. They are a friend, first of all. We'll say that.
True. It's only an online relationship, but it's grown and blossomed into something beautiful.
So I'll tell you, when we were recording it, I felt like we did the bit for 14 hours. Like in my mind, it lasted forever. And there were probably 5 minutes edited out of me just saying, Pat, I can't do this anymore. And you saying, shut up and do it. But listening back, going through the edit, it wasn't as, it was pretty bad, but it wasn't as bad as I remember doing it. Either way, it's still funny. I don't regret it.
I'm surprised that, because anything remotely like, I guess, radio showy, you've always shied away from, except meditation. You've always loved that one, which is interesting to me, because to me, there's not a huge difference. But you definitely, I would say the attitude didn't help, Tom. But
I was not in a good mood last week either, man.
Were not. You were like, listen, I don't have any other ideas, but I'm going to make this particular one thing very hard for both of us. So it's like, all right, good headspace. But it ended up being all right. We did a draft. I think we'll have the 2003 draft coming up, but that was just an all Canadian draft for the sake of the exercise, which was for me just something I wanted to try because I think it's funny, and it's not, but that's cool. It works as like a 30-second thing where we don't sound Canadian at all, but it doesn't work for an hour, which we learned pretty much immediately. Anyway, I think that catches us up to the main event, right?
Yeah, you just want to go. Let's talk about the Blink family tree a bit, because it's interesting how many projects have come from this one band.
I was trying to think of how to phrase it today, whether it's an excuse to mention the Aquabats or if they were the OGs. The timeline is a little fuzzy in my mind, but yeah, I mean, the Aquabats would be on there. Obviously, Boxcar Racer, Plus 44, Angels and Airwaves, Blink. What am I missing? Simple Creatures now is on that tree. Basically anything that any of the three original members were involved with, right? Is that fair?
I don't know if I...
Excluding maybe some of the stuff Travis did with like an hip-hop.
Right, Yellow Wolf and whatever. That might count.
It probably should count now that I bring it up, because if they were there involved with the creation of the music itself, then it would... If it came or was aided by the brains of any of the... Well, then that's a gray area too, because Hoppus has been played producer, or all three of them have on certain other projects. So, but I think there's the core like 5 or 6 acts that kind of get compared to each other, specifically Plus 44 and Angels and Airwaves, just kind of, for you and I, it's Team Tom versus Team Mark, right?
Right. And I'm not sure how I feel about Aquabats being on there, because that just happened to be a band Travis was in before Blink.
I know. I just like remembering that they were an act.
Right. And I love them. So yeah, sure.
There was a good Hard Times article this week that was like 14-year-old drives dad to Aquabat show or something. It's pretty good. But just an absurd... We should spend more time on ska acts, but maybe they don't belong on the tree, but I'm going to make a ruling that they totally deserve to be, and that they are the roots of the tree itself.
Sounds good.
There would be no Boxcar Racer without the Aquabats. I'll just say that.
Well, I think there was something like Blink. They knew Travis from the Aquabats, and their drummer Scott Rayner. They were like playing a show together, and he like bailed on the band and like checked into rehab. So Travis learned Blink's like 20-song set in like 3 hours before the show, and like filled in for them and just kind of stuck around. So they were kind of both happening at the same time. It wasn't like one came significantly before the other. So maybe there's something there. I'll allow it.
Yeah, roots of the tree. Just there wouldn't even be a band without it. So I'm glad we agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, where does Simple Creatures fall for you on like kind of your ranking? I mean, I think it's probably pretty well accepted that Angels and Airwaves is the tops of the side projects.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for you. You used to fall asleep to them in high school, right? They were super your thing.
I remember when they only had 3 songs out, and I would play it on these like $8 speakers I bought at Radio Shack, which should date that well enough. Just the 3 songs over and over and over. Fell asleep to them for like months until the whole album came out. Then I fell asleep to that for several years, and still kind of go to a different planet every now and then. And it sounds like I get high. I just listen to the music and I like it.
Space out.
Space out, bro. Yes, Angels and Airwaves is incredible. Everything they've done is amazing. Boxcar Racers, the album was good for a couple of the songs. There Is being one of the greatest songs Tom DeLonge ever wrote. Plus 44. There's a song.
Which ranked higher, Plus 44 or Boxcar?
Oh, Boxcar. I mean, Plus 44 has one song that has the word beating in it, and that's all I really know. That's all I remember.
Is an important song. It was like the Blink-182 breakup song.
Yeah,
to me,
Tear Down Something Beautiful.
The level of quality of that song lifts them. If there is an argument, and I agree with your ranking for what it's worth, if there is an argument for Plus 44 being above
Boxcar?
Yeah, I think it would have to be whether or not you feel the actual Blink-182 band breaking up song. No, it isn't being good enough to take them higher, because I'm picturing, you ever see the movie Scott Pilgrim?
Yeah.
And they kind of illustrate or I suppose it was a graphic novel beforehand, but kind of like the power that certain instruments or vibes can be portrayed exuding from like an act. I picture Mark, going, really simple, like just bass line, kind of catchy, being kind of sad, and Nightmare Before Christmassy with the lyrics. And there's a certain amount of power that he can like kind of produce. And that's, 3 or 4 hits in the existence of Plus 44, but it's limited in their own way. I will say, not to just rag on Mark, because we're about to get into it a little bit with how he and the All-Time Low dude do with this EP. I will say Tom does have a limit. He's not like some kind of super genius. Like the Everything's Magic riff, I think in certain ways, back to the Blink days, is used 3 or 4 times over. And there is, right. It's not like a Mean Girls thing where the limit does not exist. There's for sure a limit. And Angels and Airwaves was great, but it's not like he's some kind of like untouchable, right? Mark.
Sure.
I mean, there's a yin and a yang there that I think worked together pretty well, obviously, for what Blink had. But I agree with you that Boxcar and Angels and Airwaves probably are at the top of the family tree, as it were.
So Simple Creatures or Plus 44 for you?
Oh, goodness gracious.
Is that the name of the band, Simple Creatures?
Yeah. And the EP is...
Strange Creatures?
No, Simple Creatures. And the EP is called Strange Love, which is the title of track number 2, I believe.
Gotcha.
And I don't know if there's enough to go off of yet, because we thought it came out this week and we thought we were doing an emergency pod, so I didn't try to rank them yet. But I will say that I don't know if the body of work is there, but we should just come out and say that it's more different than any of the things on the family tree have sounded yet, right? I mean, Asian Airways was far off, but this is the poppiest of any of the entries, right? I feel like that's an easy one. It's the most poppy.
Well, you're saying which one is further from the sound of Blink?
No, I'm saying like this is like the farthest from sounding like Blink.
I don't know. I feel like Angels and Airwaves and Simple Creatures might be equidistant in different directions.
All right, let me rephrase. Start over. This is the pop effort. There's no other like pop effort on the tree.
Okay, sure.
Right.
Gotcha.
It's just, but we were trying to kind of today before the show figure out where the hell this even came from, right? And we thought up of 3 possibilities. One being, these are middle-aged men in a formerly famous group that wanted to have a song of the summer, a la Maroon 5. Or Mark didn't want to be third on the Blink family tree, such an obvious third, and wanted to at least come up with another effort separate from Blink that could at least compete with what Angels is and is considered to be, because he has an ego that needs to be fed in that way, which is unlikely in my opinion, and I think yours as well. Or 3, he and Alex are just rich and wanted to have fun and make some pop songs because they have been in the same bands for 20 years and didn't get to really, appease their pop sensibilities since 2002 or whatever it would have been, or 90 whatever in Blink's case.
I read an article, I think it might have been Kerrang, where Mark was talking about when he got back from like basically a 2-year tour with Blink, touring the album California. He just hit this like really horrible depression that he couldn't seem to shake. And he realized after a while, like, I need to make something new and it needs to be different. And he and Alex kind of knew each other because they toured with Blink for a while.
Did he produce some of their stuff?
That is. I'm not sure. I always think of Feldman when I think of All Time Low. I'm not sure. I haven't.
Also, should we cover the All Time Low side of this for like a quick second? I had that band pinned as if there was going to be an award show for the decade we cover on Reminiscent, this podcast, from 2000 to 2010, that decade. Would they be nominated? Would the camera be on them when the envelope was opened for best guilty pleasure band of that era? Or are they better than a guilty pleasure band? To me, it was always the hair was always a little too straight, kind of in the girls like boys type area of the graph.
Yeah.
I'd
say they'd be on stage.
Catchy, but definitely, I don't know how much street cred was there. What's your take on that? Like, where is that half of the duo coming from?
Yeah, I'd say they'd be on stage. I mean, they obviously were like absolutely killing it in like, was it 2006 with like Dear Maria, JC Ray. That's kind of, I think I stopped listening after whatever album Damned If I Do Ya, Damned If I Don't was on. But it was just good. It was really great pop music. I thought Alex's voice was very non-offensive, as far as like that far into pop that it was.
Is he kind of built to be a part of a pop project?
I think that if I listened to Simple Creatures and didn't know Alex was a part of it, I would have never known who the other singer was. I feel like it's so different than what I knew of him, and I really liked that about the group for sure.
Yeah, it's tough not to know it's Mark. I mean, I think you noted this, and not to dive track by track right away, but it starts off with some super Hoppus lyrics down to the na-na-nas, right? Like the whole EP starts off with the na-na-nas.
That's the first thing I wrote down.
Actually a cut screen in the video game Guitar Hero, the original one, where he's like, "Nah is always an acceptable lyric," or something like that, which always was hilarious to me.
The load screen, yeah.
Yeah, the load screen, right. Yeah, so, I mean, he kind of hides it a little better, but, the yin and the yang of Tom and Mark is one thing, but the yin and the yang of Mark and Alex definitely sets itself up. Mark's tough to hide, limited vocally a little bit, and we've heard his poetry for going on 3 decades now, right? Or at least for 2.
Yeah.
So you kind of know he references Grass on Graves and Fallen Angel type stuff. Basically you think what the aesthetic of the Miss You music video is, right? In words. And it's been really great for a long time, but it's a little tough to hide. But yeah, Alex totally blends in and it works. I think the first 2 tracks on the EP are, what did Mark tweet? It was, bops that slap and do fornicate or something. Like, just trying to be. He's very active on Twitter and he's a funny guy, obviously.
I saw a tweet from the group that just said trash pop for dummies.
Oh, do you feel that's true?
I thought it was
because I also saw a tweet
perfect.
that said Mark Boppus, and I thought that was hilarious.
No, I think trash pop for dummies is great.
Whoa. That means it's bad pop and it's for people that are stupid. Because it's allowed to be bad pop that can be enjoyed by everyone, but that's a double takedown. I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know
if that's accurate.
No.
At least a third of these songs, just hear me out on this one point. At least a third of these songs totally work for what it is and it's fun. It's a project that was only ever meant to be fun, and it is that. Not all the songs are great, but would you agree that at least a third of the songs you would keep in your library? You're allowed to disagree, of course, but that's my takeaway, kind of overall overarching.
I think I'll listen for another week and then stop. But I interpreted trash in trash pop not as this is garbage.
Oh, you mean like posting where it's like still allowed to be funny, but it's coming from a different place?
No,
You know,
like trash is just like a dirty, kind of grimy version of something.
Oh, okay. See, I read that totally different and be like, this is bad pop for people who are evil.
No, because like the guitars are so overcompressed, so distorted. There's like all the, distorted harmonics on the vocals, all kinds of stuff. Like, I think it is a true representation of what trash pop would sound like.
Interesting. I mean, to me, there's like, Broken Bells, the dude from the Shins, or maybe it's Discovery, the dude from the Shins and Vampire Weekend. But I think it was Broken Bells that had a few hits, maybe like 10 years ago or something, where it was a duo of acts that were active, but they went off to do more poppy work. To me, there was like shades of that mixed with that Bieber album that sounded like it was full of the sound of like trying to pull a straw out of a paper cup, like the really high, like,
yep.
I'm not describing it right, but it's like shades of so many different things. Like you can kind of feel like they're just puking up all the pop they weren't allowed to record for the last, that's what it felt like to me. And to me, the first two songs aren't. What's weird is Adrenaline track 4, which has the star on it on iTunes. I guess the star indicates it's supposed to be the hit, but to me, that's the most phone it in, safe pop song of all of them. But to me, the first two tracks are experimental. It's all these sounds they get to play with and toy with, and that's what makes them great because they're kind of chaotic, but also really good. I don't know if you got that same vibe, or what were your first few thoughts when you went through the whole thing, or the first few songs anyway?
Well, you started texting me about the album. I was working and couldn't quite listen yet. So for about 2 hours, I was kind of speculating on what this would sound like. And I thought it would sound like a John Feldman produced pop rock album. I was really hoping that it wasn't, because how old is Mark Hoppus now?
Yeah, I mean, I saw them live most recently in Pittsburgh maybe 3 years ago. And it was just weird to see Skiba singing the DeLonge parts, or what they were even, I don't know. Yeah, I could see why he fell into a little bit of a rut. I can't even imagine playing What's My Age Again for drunk dummies for 2 decades. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
As long as we've been alive, or almost nearly.
So anyways, like I had absolutely no idea what to expect. I hadn't heard any of the hype. All I knew was someone photoshopped Rafiki holding Simba off of Pride Rock onto Mark Hoppus's hair. Like, that's all I knew, is that they were doing something.
He committed to the hair. Like, talk about branding. It's
right. We'll put a picture of that in the show notes, because it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. So I put it on, and right away you hear like the kind of like trashy guitars and all that stuff, electronic drums, and I knew right away that I wasn't gonna like it, but I knew that it was what I wanted it to be.
Like a commitment to something different, you mean?
Yeah, just because like it seemed like this more like, I don't want to say elevated. I've been watching too much like cooking shows lately, but like it was pop, but it wasn't like, straighten your hair and put on eyeliner kind of stuff.
Yeah, they don't talk about going to a club. Although they do kind of talk about going to a club, but they're playing music at the club and then they go home and have an orgy. So it's like, I don't know. The interview I read, to me, it was kind of cringeworthy, where they were like, we wanted to experiment with dark pop, but to me, it's just like the most easy listening ever. Like, there's nothing really that dark about it, other than the fact that some of it sounds like the way the Miss You music video looks. But to me, you're so numb to it after being a fan of Opposites for so long that I guess it is dark pop, but also like, who cares? I don't know. It's pop still to me. Do you buy that? Like that it's dark pop, or because that was just from some interview, and I'm sure they were just doing a press tour or whatever. Like they weren't like spilling their guts from their journal. They were probably just trying to describe it accurately. But
I still think trash pop is the absolute best term for it.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect, because it's not like so dark and like, oh, we're Disturbed, not the band or whatever, but like,
would trash pop is it allowed to still be catchy?
Yeah, of course.
Because to me, like
pop.
Their strengths are, you think about, I don't know, what's the best Mark hook? I don't know. We should be doing a whole episode on that, but a really good plus 44 hook mixed with Dear Maria. They both know how to string together good sounding melodies and hooks, or whatever word you want to use, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing hard to listen to about it, which I guess is why I'm a little hesitant for the trash pop. But then again, I misunderstood the word from the beginning. So if I'm just totally railroading your very accurate and good idea, then it wouldn't be the first time on the show, quite honestly. And I apologize for all the instances of that happening.
So I didn't really feel the like feel good summertime vibes like you said you did on the first two.
To me, I thought the first two tracks could legitimately be songs of the summer. What sucks is Old Town, well, what sucks for them, what's really great for humanity is that Old Town Road came out, or the remix, I should say, with Billy Ray Cyrus last week, and has been absolutely ripping up Twitter and the airwaves as well. So that's kind of already, to me, set as the song of the summer. I can't imagine anything dethroning it. It's kind of like when Despacito was there. It's like, this is probably just going to be the song of the summer for the next 3 summers. It's always a loose term that's never official. It just, things just kind of end up being like, oh yeah, I guess that was the song of the summer. But to me, I thought there were 2 good entries, intentional or unintentional. Anyway, I thought it was fun and bright. I didn't think there was much dark about it, to be quite honest.
I don't know. I actually liked the second half a little better, I think.
You're wrong, and you're just bad at this.
So, like, the first 2 songs just made me think of, like, all right, so when I was living in DC, I listened to Elliot in the Morning a lot, which is like a I don't want to say variety, comedy, whatever, talk show. Did the pop culture stuff. And whenever they were like pimping tickets for the iHeartRadio music tour, like their music sounds like whatever would be in the background as he was like, all right, call now. It just seems like that kind of cool kid music that would like this kind of faux indie thing where they're like, oh, we're an indie band, but it's actually a super group. And I don't know, man. It just seemed too cool kid for me. But I think it's objectively good. I just don't like it. I mean, that's like how I would sum the whole thing up. I'm glad that it's here. Honestly, I'm just glad to not hear Matt Skiba's dumb voice mixed with Mark's.
Whoa.
Because
we have to do club horns.
I mean,
the first hot take we've had in weeks.
So, Mark, I feel like I'm starting to like his voice less and less as they produce it more and more. There's like so much like fry in it when he's doing his like lower notes. And I just like never heard it like that in Blink before. I don't think he has a strong voice to begin with. So putting that much emphasis in the clarity of his voice, like I feel like I would try to take some away to make it blend in with the music a little more. I don't know. I mean, it was good. It was good. I think he and Alex work well together, but it is kind of weird that like I feel like if you said I want you to pick Alex Gaskarth's voice out of a lineup, I feel like I would do it with no problem, but I don't recognize any of it in this album at all. So it makes the recognition of Mark's voice so much like there's so much contrast to it.
He's never going to be able to kind of hide, right? I mean, he's that Scott Pilgrim character that it's in my head that doesn't mean anything. But to me, he's a guy that can do hooks and be moody and has a bass and he's laying it on the line, always, jumping around. He has a certain energy to him and a sound that is very pinpointable. Pinpointable? Sure. But, yeah, I agree. Alex it's kind of, but to me, it's kind of cool because he can kind of hide in the project and it can be this new thing while still being from him. It's a little bit of a weird juxtaposition to the episode we just recently did about the Head Automatica guy, which was like, that poor son of a bitch couldn't do a side project, or like, he couldn't really hide away in anything if he tried, but in a good way and in the best way possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, is there a, it's going to be weird growing up and having like when we're 50 or we're going to go to the reunion Blink shows and stuff. I mean, we have so many decades left of, they've already had so many reunion tours and all this stuff. Like, will it be enjoyable when we do that? Like 2-minute songs that are about drinking in parking lots and stuff? Probably. But at what point is there too much? Are you suggesting that there's a point where there can be too much Mark?
Yes. And I feel bad because like...
And what form does that take? Because I think like I've mentioned the riff to Everything's Magic, where to me there's definitely able to be too much Tom. So like...
Strongly disagree.
I mean, he uses... Well, I'll argue this with you most of the time. Also, I feel bad 10 minutes ago. I was like, was trying to be funny and say like, yeah, well, your opinions are wrong and you're bad at this. But it came off as if I was being sincere and actually disrespected you or something. And I just feel bad about it. And we're all friends on this pod, so I wanted to clarify and make things overly awkward in the other direction just for the sake of full disclosure. Because everything I have let things slip in the past. I think when you mentioned that your friend Portia a couple episodes ago, I was like, man, that's cool. I wish I had a friend Portia that told me cool music, which sounded wholeheartedly because it was delivered in a dry manner, like, Tom, nobody cares about your stupid friend Portia. But really what I was trying to convey was that is actually really cool, and I am very jealous because I have the worst taste in music in the world. And it would have been nice to have someone named Portia just handing records to me and stuff and telling me their thoughts about Great Gatsby at night. Sounds like a nice time. But back to the main state of affairs, I agree that there's, should they take a break for a little while? Should they wait 10 years? What do you do with a young band and a young audience that's already done the cycle of reunion and greatest hits and all that stuff? You know what I mean? Like, what is there left to do, and how do you really remedy that and continue to share a relationship that's beneficial for both parties? I mean, like you said, he needed this project to climb out of a rut, and you wrote in the notes, which I thought was a good point, that's like, music can do that, and that's beautiful. But like, how do you keep the fans and the artist happy when we're both still so young and there's so much life and art yet to be made, but we're already kind of tired of his voice in poetry, it seems, at least at this point?
Yeah, I think he's kind of a victim of the success of Blink-182 because, well, I guess Tom wasn't, though. I don't know. It depends on if you're Team Tom or Team Mark. I'm fully Team Tom. I'll support anything he does, but I feel like Mark is only like half of a group or something. I don't know, because like I would never say like he should stop making music. Like, absolutely not, especially saying like he was super depressed. Like, anything you can do to get out of that is like fully supported. I think he should make music until the day he dies, and he should make exactly what he wants to make. I can opt out of listening to it, but I still want to support him because he came from a group that's like the most important pivotal moment of my life was discovering Blink-182. So like, I want him to like be successful making money on music forever. I'll continue to listen to it as it comes out. It may not stick around, but I don't know. I just feel like nothing Mark has done, for me personally, doesn't have the staying power that stuff that Tom has done.
Do you want to see another Simple Creatures album?
I mean, I want the world to have it. I don't really care about it. Like,
Would you listen? Are you intrigued by what was created just now?
I would listen to it for the podcast.
Okay. Because to me, the first two tracks, I think my wife would like them. I think like it would make a road trip playlist for us. I think I would go as far as to say as they were fun. It was cool to see them work together. I don't know if it worked overall. Like, I don't know if they would be able to create a full like 12-song album that would like be life altering. Again, just because we pretty much know what is inside the heart and brain of Mark, I guess.
Right.
Because you feel like you're so close to them after 8 albums of work one way or another. But I hope I'm wrong, right? Like you said, I'd listen to it for the pod. I'd probably listen to it anyway. I was going to listen to this just because I follow them on Twitter and everything like that. I think what's interesting and limiting about Tom and Mark is that they're not like renowned at what they do in terms of like from a musicianship standpoint. Like John Mayer can go on tour with B.B. King and they can just value the art of of blues guitar and stuff. You know what I mean? Like
right.
Mark would never be invited to just like lay down what is meant to be like, this is how bass is done. You know what I mean? Like there's
right.
Is he really good at a hook and he deserves to be famous and he wrote really good music with Tom and it was just like, he has his strengths. I don't think they're never going to be considered like classically good singer-songwriter types, even though that sounds really weird. I don't know. Although I guess Tom would be considered one of the more prolific songwriters of the decade we talk about on this show. Anyway, I'm conflicted about it and I don't have an answer, so maybe we should just move on and maybe craft an episode out of that later because we're not going to solve it today. But it's kind of concerning as a fan, I guess, is what we're finding. But I'm glad they did this. It's different, right? I think it's what we're landing on. We'd listen to it if they tried it again, and this one was pretty fun and okay, and at least a third of the songs are pretty good.
Yeah, again, I feel like with a lot of things, I'm glad it's here. I probably won't revisit it. But if people like it, that makes me super happy because it means Mark can continue and Alex can continue doing something they love. I would love to hear real drums in the songs. My wife Megan listened. She said it felt a little heartless, and I think it's because we have these super heavy guitars and then just kind of like electric drums. Would be cool to layer them a little bit.
It was kind of a weird look to have to consume it so soon after the Steve Aoki thing. Like I just
oh God,
that was I don't even remember recording that episode, to be quite honest, but I just remember like I hate that we have sometimes I love that we have the Taylor Swift and Blink clause, because usually, again, on the show, and people listening know this, but you know, we go back and take a look at the early 2000s and try to figure out if it was actually good or bad, and we haven't even gotten to the Strokes and the Killers and the White Stripes and things like that yet, like the acts that would actually justify how good of a decade it was. But The clauses being, of course, that we have to cover any Taylor Swift and Blink news. But when the Aoiki thing came up, I was like, damn it, this counts. Like I don't even, what is there to say really? It felt more like a booze commercial than anything, but, and I think it might have actually been, but.
It might have been a Kill Bill commercial at the same time.
Jumpsuit Enthusiast Weekly or Quarterly or something. Magazine. Anyway. Tracksuit, I should say. Anyway, I think that's pretty much what I had in my brain about this. We're going to be putting out an article, kind of an official review, or at least a take on all of it tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll embed the show in there and send it out and everything like that.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to throw this in there. If it doesn't work, that's fine. We can kind of move on from it.
No, I should have asked if you had anything left to say before I went into the wrap-up stuff. But yeah, lay it on me. I'd love to hear it.
I mentioned, I say this a lot about different artists, and Megan is always like, what the f*** do you mean by that? When I said, it sounds like cool kid music, I was trying to imagine, who would listen to this album, and I was just trying to, the only time I've probably ever meditated in my life, just, listen to the song and, picture a scenario where I would hear this song, and I imagined, I'll set the scene, a college sophomore. They have a couple friends over to their place, 5 guys and 2 girls that kind of don't want to be there. They have Christmas lights scotch taped to the corners of their walls and ceilings. Some are kind of fallen down. And they're playing Drug by Simple Creatures. It's a $12 Walmart Bluetooth speaker that's in the kitchen, not even in the room that they're in. One dude's trying to learn how to roll a joint for the first time. They're in school-sponsored housing, and they think they're about to get so high, and they can't wait. And that is honestly what I saw in my head while listening to the song Drug. And before I even knew it was called Drug, I was just going through the songs. And
so what's the most stereotypic version of this theory that you have? Who, when you started this theory, was the band that made you set that scene originally? Just so I know where you're coming from.
Oh, cool kid stuff? Cool kid music?
Yeah. Help me define where your head's at.
So, I mean, that vision I had was just for this band specifically, but I don't know, I don't even know, the band's names. Just, was it Pedro the Lion, Cage the Elephant, MGM,
Cage the Elephant's cool kid music?
MGMT, those all are just okay, so those are the kids who think they're cool that say they listen to indie music, but it's the most successful top 40 acts ever.
You're opening up a can of crazy. Okay, first of all, I don't think Cage the Elephant, which to me is just a solid rock group, belongs in a category with MGMT, which is an electronica band that does not perform well live. And I just think I can never see them in the same group at all. I'm not trying to tear down your theory. I'm trying to get to the core of it so I understand it better. I think you're being a little harsh on the outsider indie groups that do end up finding success. I mean, MGMT, they weren't exactly, I guess we'll have to do an episode, but were the studios putting big money behind them, or did they just happen to have a good, a breakout album that sounded good?
Right. And I think part of my problem is I don't know these acts' names because I don't listen to it.
Because to me, cool kid groups is when I watched 500 Days of Summer for the first time, they're trying to portray this dude with a skinny tie that listens to the Smiths, right? To me, the Smiths or the people from college who listen to this that got me into the Mountain Goats are going to hate me or just laugh at me for this. But to me, it's Mountain Goats, Wilco. I'm describing a specific person at this point, but the Smiths, stuff you have to kind of try to right? To me, that's cool kid music in my head.
Gotcha.
But so you're saying it's MGMT? Spotify's stereotypic college radio station is cool kid music to you?
Yes,
MGMT?
That's it. I mean,
Group Love and stuff, maybe?
Who?
Group Love.
I don't know any of these people.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think of just stuff that, Matt and Kim, maybe?
Never heard of them.
Okay. Tom, I'm just trying to understand.
I don't know. Just, I think a Spotify stereotypical college, yeah.
I think you're trying to describe Matt and Kim type music.
You have to be playing cornhole while listening to them.
Threw ashes into the ocean. That song. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Anyway, should we talk about music that we do like currently?
No, because now I want to solve this. Because what was the point you were trying to make originally
That this kind of fits more into the cool kid music category.
To me, okay, you're coming from something. Well, I'm sorry in advance, but also I'm not. I'm just trying to sort through all this. To me, this is just a fun thing that two dudes that were in other bands did that they're allowing their fans to listen to if they want to. I'm not sure, like, you're a college sophomore being like, I dug this up. I mean, Mark Hoppus is involved. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I unearthed this group that only I love. You know what I mean? Like everyone in the world follows Mark on Twitter. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think qualify as a cool kid group because of how famous everyone involved already is. You know what I'm saying?
That's the point. They're so famous that they can't possibly
right,
be
but I feel like that scene you're setting, which we're allowed to make fun of those people in that scene, I'm not sure this would be the soundtrack to that. If what cool kid music is in fact what like fucking Mac DeMarco would have been 2 years ago and what Matt and Kim would have been 9 years ago or something, right?
Sure, I'll trust you on that.
I don't know. I'm just trying to, whatever, like what Vampire Weekend might have been 13 years ago. I don't know. At the time, like the hot, like what are college freshmen rolling their joints to or trying to, you know what I mean? Like whatever, there's probably, for every song in the summer, there's an album of the fall that people learn to roll joints to. And that's fine. Music serves so many purposes and it's so great. But yeah, I don't know if this, so you're saying, is that one of the reasons you might not have liked this as much as others might? Because it falls in that category for you?
No, that's just what it reminded me of. I mean, it's not my genre. I don't even know what I like anymore, dude. Like, I'm almost 28. I'm confused.
I think we reach that point in the show every week. You know what? Actually, man, damn. We sad as homie. From the Punk Coast Pod episode. Check it out if you want. But anyway, yeah. Well, I hate that we had to get there, but I'm interested. Now I'm picturing the people in that scene. I know I've been a part of that group for sure. So I'm not above it. I'm not above anything really, and I'm not above this album. I think a third of it's pretty good. I'm not too cool to admit that. Not too cool to admit either that I really did try hard to like the Smiths after watching 500 Days of Summer. And Big Mouth Strikes Again is a song I enjoy very much. I probably like 3 or 4 of those. So I guess it is what it is. You try to understand where people are coming from. John. Anyway, for me, Old Town Road, I mentioned it earlier. It's my song of the week. It's my song of the decade, song of the century, probably. It was a beautiful like Twitter movement as well a couple weeks ago where everyone's just like, from the hip hop side of things and it was so funny, internet weird, but also worked. They're like, what, Billy Ray Cyrus? And people were joking about like, he did not have to snap this hard on this record. You know what I mean? Just like, and he was talking to the young rapper, like, you're this bright shining light in the world. And then the rapper was tweeting like, honestly, fam, I almost cried. Like it was so beautiful. And everyone's like, it was like the most wholesome meme in the world. And the song's really catchy. I don't know. There's nothing I've ever felt better about seeing so many people get along and just be happy for everyone. I don't know, it's just a really beautiful thing. The internet sucks so often, but that was just such a beautiful, weird collection of forces of the world, I guess, or pop culture. Anyway, Old Town Road remix. I like it a lot.
Awesome. I'm preparing for our Swedish band draft. A friend sent me a link to Abandoned by Bears today, and they have a song called Blurry Vision. They're like Swedish easycore. They've got some really sick guitar riffs, fun melodies, some really dope mid-range screams. It makes me miss 2007 more than anything in the world. And yeah, Blurry Vision by Abandoned by Bears.
Well, if our show doesn't make ourselves feel that way about that decade, then we're doing it wrong. So I'm glad stuff you do for this show makes you think of 2007 fondly. That's kind of that's the show. So that warms my heart to hear. And now I'm picturing, do they ever roll the joint successfully in your mind? Like, does it ever get smoked? And does the guy that was trying to do it to impress, do either the girls, do they leave before the party really gets underway? And does it end up being a bros night for the men involved? Or does one of them actually smooth enough to ruin it for the rest of his friends because he's trying to get with the girl instead of actually have a good memory with his pals? How does that night end for you? I have to know.
I imagine the guy that says, I don't think this is really working, ends up throwing up by the end of the night.
I mean, I feel like the sensible one wouldn't puke. The joint roller would, right?
I don't know. Maybe he just got it from his brother. He was just stoked to show it off, you know?
Yeah. What? Well, he got it from his brother. So his brother, he went to college in his own hometown, or the brother just happens to go to the same school with him, and he went there because his brother did.
Well, I mean, he's in school-sponsored housing, but his family lives like 5 minutes away, so he goes over for dinner on Friday night still.
Ooh, rough.
Yeah.
So he didn't even.
So his brother's a dropout, obviously.
Dark.
Yeah, well, you know, all those dope smokers are pathetic losers.
So he's acting hard, but he didn't have the cojones to actually leave town to go to school. But he does have the cojones to bring drugs
to school-sponsored housing.
What else is on that playlist?
Oh, I don't know.
And are the girls there long enough to see the joint get smoked? Or did they leave to go to the bars with some upperclassmen?
Well, no, the one girl like kind of has a crush on the one dude there.
Oh, I love it. Yes, the friend doesn't want to be there, but she's there to back her up.
Right, exactly. So she dragged another friend out. She wants to go to the other party where her other friends are. She's kind of like that little in the middle situation where she's kind of like the common link between several groups. The guy
she has a crush on is not the weed roller, though. He's just there because he does have a promise of weed, right?
Right.
He's like, yes. Okay, here's the massive question. Whose apartment or whose dorm and whose playlist?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
I got to say the weed roller who has the brother is one of the two people in the dorm. I'm going to say it's not co-ed housing. I think it's going to be two guys. I think it's got to be the love interest boy and the weed roller. And he's like, but it's still kind of early in the fall, right? Like, yeah, he's got weed. Yeah, no, it'll be fun. And I think it's the weed rollers playlist. But I don't know if, see, that's the thing. Back to the title of the whole episode. I don't know if Simple Creatures makes that playlist, man. I think it's Jack Johnson and Dave Matthews. Or I don't know if it's that stereotypical.
Oh,
maybe it would be MGMT. I think you're onto something.
Maybe. We'll never know.
But now, but I want to know. I've never wanted to talk about anything more in this world. I think the girls leave to go to the bars, and she tells the crush to meet up with them later, but they got to go because the girl's getting upset. And he's like, yeah, I get it. I would leave too. And then I think they all end up smoking out of a beer can that they poke holes in. Or an old soda can because they haven't found their beer hookup yet if it's this early in their freshman year. And nobody ever talks to each other again because they all OD on pot and die because drugs are bad. Anyway, that was fun. Thanks for indulging me, which is all you ever do on this show, and I'm eternally grateful, particularly last week for the All O Canada episode, the Canadian draft. But I love you very much. Thanks for having me.
Love you too, man. Thanks for being mine. See. All right, everybody. Anything we talked about in the rest of this episode, tweet at us at _reminiscentfm and let us know who you think brought the weed, whose playlist it was, which boy had the crush on the girl, which girl had the crush on what boy, whose school-sponsored housing it was, and if Simple Creatures is good enough to be considered a cool kid band. We'll talk to you next week. Love you. Bye.